Hello and welcome to another episode of Classic Rewind on the Cinema Gold Show. This week, we continue our deep dive through The Rock's filmography with Gridiron Gang. A very criminally underrated movie I haven't heard many people talking about. It didn't gross that much money based on the budget, and it does star Dwayne Johnson, one of America's popular actors, and it has a very powerful story interweave, through football and prison. And it tells the story of the real-life Kilpatrick Mustangs during the 1990 season. In case you guys didn't know, it's a juvenile detention camp located in California, the Santa Monica Mountains of western Los Angeles County in California. They have a really good sports program that basically the coach there gets all the kids, who are in jail to play football and kind of make a better life for themselves. This movie is actually almost an exact carbon copy of Coach Carter, except that it uses football instead of basketball. I prefer Coach Carter much more, but this movie still honestly deserves a lot of love. I really liked it a lot. It was released back in 2006, and it had a budget of $30 million and grossed $41 million. So not too much if you consider, if you invest $30 million in a movie and get $11 million back, it's not that much, but like I said, not one of the most popular movies out there. But basically, the story is that Sean Porter, who is the head coach who also works at the detention center, it's pretty much like the discipline taskmaster, let's say. But he does eventually become the coach, and the movie starts off with a lot of rampant gang violence. Usually the kids are living in a place that's really hard, very similar to Freedom Riders, where they live in gang-controlled areas. And right off the bat, Willie Weathers, one of the kids, one of his homeboys is killed in a shooting, but then he's involved. He takes out a gun and tries to kill one of the guys, but he's sent there for that. And within the detention center, there are a few rival gang factions, Willie is from the 88th Street Gang, and this other kid named Kelvin is from the 95s. So I think it's kind of like a blood and crip kind of thing, they're like arch rivals, and they'll kill each other on sight. So right off the bat, we establish a very heated rivalry between these two gang members within the detention center, and they don't like each other at all. And there's also this one character called Junior who's really undisciplined, but he has a son outside of the detention center. He wants to set a good example, There are a few characters whose names I don't remember. Exhibit is in the movie playing the assistant coach, Malcolm. And we see a few other name actors as well, and a few other new ones too. But I actually think that, hold on a second. Of course, Dwayne Johnson is the main actor, the one we actually kind of root for the most. I'm just trying to take a look here and see if I can find anything else worth saying. So the movie begins with this conflict here. And it's funny because at the very end of it, skipping to the end here, you actually see that everything that you see in the movie did happen in real life, which you see in the closing credits, Before I continue reviewing it, let's show a little piece of it.
Line it up!
Roger, you're 17 years old. Where are you going to be in 4 years?
I don't know.
If you don't find an alternative, you're going to die.
Society had given up on them.
75% of our kids end up back in jail.
They had given up
Here, right? Now, as per the norm with sports dramas, there is a lot of tension between some of the characters and within the sport that they play. They start to mold friendships, they start to actually make connections. And the thing is, now that we're actually looking at it, it's not exactly like Coach Carter, where the players do get along from the get-go. They're kind of friends, but here we have rival gang members who would, outside the detention center, definitely fight to the death or just shoot each other. There is a moment where one of the characters, I do believe his name is Free. Let me just double check that. Yes, Free. At one point, he actually stops by, and this I'm going to save for later because it's actually a little bit of a build-up here. And they start to form a football team. But the state doesn't trust them with equipment. So they have to play with what they have at first. And they go to tryouts, they train, they practice, They do make a team. And at first, they kind of suck at football. But after the first game, they're demolished by, I think, like 38 points. So there are a few games where they lose and a few that they win. Very similar to Titletown High, but this is a movie, but the events do seem very realistic within the sports domain. And there's actually one moment, if I can remember here, they start off, they win games, they work together, this and that. And those two players, who hate each other, Kelvin and Willie has the ball and he's rushing to the end zone for a touchdown. And then Kelvin actually blocks the guy who's coming to tackle him, which is a moment of team play by them. And then at the end of this play, they actually look at each other, smile, and high-five each other. They shake hands, which is like a really good turning point, because despite them being pretty much mortal enemies outside because of their games, They come together in football and play as teammates, and they actually help each other win, which is really cool. And they train a lot. They eventually do get better equipment. Some of the players mature more in play and are essential to the team. Junior, unfortunately, the big fellow, he gets hurt and he can't play anymore, but he's still there supporting them. There are days where other family members and friends come to visit some of the inmates, and unfortunately, tensions arise. It's actually really interesting because every game has a different atmosphere. Each game they play with Coach Porter, played by Dwayne Johnson, egging them on and motivating them. He's really rough, He really can just tear into them very powerfully, as a sports coach tends to do. But he does motivate them a lot. He really does pick them up when they're down, and the training gets tougher and tougher. It's really tough as nails. It's hard as hell, and you kind of travel with the characters in the movie. You feel the pain that they feel. And there is a moment during a game where Free comes into the field, just to talk to certain people, look for Willie. He finds out that Kelvin's from 95, the gang members. In the beginning, that 88 member who was friends with Willie, who died, was killed by a 95. So then, in an attempt to avenge him, Free goes over there and shoots him in the shoulder. He's about to shoot him in the head, but then Willie comes in and tackles Free, And remember, we're talking about two gang members from the 88 gang, So it's pretty much like family. You can't betray each other. So he tackles him to save Kelvin, The police come in and Free runs away. He gets into a shootout with the police, but he gets shot and killed. So, he was really protecting his teammate, but he also, in the process, got one of his gang members killed, and word travels around the neighborhood, and he pretty much becomes a marked man. So, yeah, that level of tension, it didn't really go over my head. It really made me feel, And now we're going to take a look at this clip.
And dared to take a risk.
You want to start a football team?
Come on, Sean. It's impossible.
Then let's try the impossible.
And turn the rage that made them enemies.
I'll kill you right here, right now.
Into a bond that could make them brothers.
On the gridiron, we do it my way. Your way got you here, and you're here because you lost. And if you accept this challenge...
Now, Willie is a more intricate character, because he's really the coach really puts a lot of pressure on him, because I do believe he's the quarterback, which is essentially being quarterback on a football team, whether professional or otherwise. It's a really big responsibility, because he's kind of like the main star. He's the one who's going to set up the plays, throw the ball for the receivers to catch. So he's the one that kind of the main key for allowing touchdowns to happen. So a lot of pressure is put on Willie, but he does run really fast. He's really agile because he's thin, so he plays really well. And as the movie goes on, you see a lot of amazing character development, a lot of crazy growth, because the players go from a bunch of inmates who want to kill each other to actually playing on a team and actually caring for one another. Especially after Kelvin gets shot, goes to the hospital, comes back with a cast, and Daniel really raises his helmet as a sign of respect. So they do get along. They win a few games, and they do eventually make it to the playoffs. It's really impressive how they get there. They actually do. It does show them playing the final game. I do believe, it says here, okay, so the last play in the playoff game, this and that. So, okay. If I'm not mistaken, because it's been a while since I watched it, it was the first movie that I saw on my new TV. They do lose the game 17-14. I just don't remember if it shows that. I think it shows the semifinal. Wait, give me a second to look this up. No, it does show the final. They do lose the final. And it does show them losing, but nobody called them losers, because in the locker room, coach is always giving them a lot of really good speeches, The very last one, though, Willie is the one. Everybody is sitting down there in silence, and Willie is the one who actually gets up and motivates everyone. Like he said, he used to hate everybody. Now they became friends, a team. So it's actually very subtle. It's very small, but it has a really strong vibrating effect, And everybody decides to get up and play the game. And they lose by a very small margin. I can't remember if it shows them losing the game or not. I'm pretty sure it does, though. They beat Barrington. Now, I remember because I have a little cheat sheet here in the playoff game. They actually do win. But then in the actual championship game that doesn't show, they lose. So that's what goes right there. So just go ahead and watch it later, in case I butcher anything. It's been a while. So I do think that because of that and the way that it depicts American football, getting right there on the greediness of it, if you understand football, then the movie is going to come to you like a glove. It's going to be very easy to understand. I honestly think that the depiction of the rules of football, how it works, and the players coming together to actually form a strong bond and become a team, it's unparalleled. This is why I love sports movies. It's why I love them, especially when they're serious, like dramas, because they show such amazing growth and character development all over the place. And it's a good way for you to learn more about how the sport works. So it's a great little movie, and of course, Dwayne Johnson, one of his finest works. It's the second movie now that I've watched of him playing football. The other one is a rundown, of course. Now, after all this, it is revealed at the very end of the little title outro screen thingy, that some of the players are actually doing really well.
Yeah, Danielle, you're the only one who cares anything about me. Trying to change.
You can do it. You hear me?
Some of them were released from the detention center, and all in all, 24 are continuing their education. Some of them got scholarships, for example, to play pro ball or to study regularly somewhere else. And 24 are still continuing, and 3 are working full-time jobs, and 5 of them are back in jail. Unfortunately, but considering when people were expecting these youngsters, only 5 of them going back to prison is actually a miracle. And specifically, some of them, Willie, with playing football at a top boarding school. Kelvin was playing for Washington Hyde. Kenny Bates was going to a school in Long Beach, living with his mom. Junior, the one who had a son, had a job working for a furniture company. The other guy was playing football for a high school, this and that. And some of them actually went back in their old gangs. So not everybody had a happy ending. But still, you have to appreciate the effort. A lot of the kids were effectively saved from a life of crime through football. Same thing happened in Coach Carter, with basketball. It's amazing how these two movies draw parallels between each other. They are actually very similar. I'd love to see another movie with a similar premise, but exploring different sports, like maybe hockey or soccer or football, because soccer in the United States and football in Europe. But I think I'm just going to call it soccer from now on because it's going to make it a lot easier. And you got FIFA going on right now. But yeah, man, that's just the way it is, Good soundtrack, with some nice, really cool beats and really good pacing, And the way that some of the plot elements were structured, everything was really well paced out and nicely fleshed. The details were really, even though when I watched it, wasn't really into football as I am now, I do understand a little bit more. I still was able to understand it, and it was a good movie. Not one of my personal favorites. If I had to give it a rating, I'll give it a 9 out of 10. Reason I'm not giving it a full 10 is because maybe I'm not the biggest fan of football that I could have been, so a lot of things kind of flew over my head. And there were a few elements that just felt like they were copy and pasted from other movies that I saw. Like, for example, Coach Carter, So it wasn't perfect, but I did like it a lot. And if you actually enjoy football, you might actually really, really love it. But overall, man, everything was cool. Good chemistry with the cast. The characters were really memorable. Everybody just acted their asses off, and it was awesome. And special props to, The Rock always representing. Always a really good actor in all the movies that he's in. I haven't seen one bad movie where The Rock was in, except for maybe the Scorpion King, but I mean, then again, that was like his first outing, so it doesn't count. But we'll actually dive into that film in one of these reviews of his films, perhaps the next one. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comments below if you happen to like this movie, if you watched it. If you didn't, you just gave yourself a bunch of spoilers. If you happen to like my review, go ahead and give this video a like and also subscribe to my channel. And when you're at it, you might as well hit the notification bell to know exactly what time my videos come out. And with that, thank you so much for watching and listening. If you want to support the channel, you can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/cinemagold. As always, thank you so much for watching and listening. We will see you next time.